And I got to agree with John, though. I do think sack numbers will go up. And I'm going to spit out some of those numbers here in a second. But I want to show from the top down. Let's start at the top. Some of the DVOA stuff historically for the Panthers from 2011 to 2016 when Sean McDermott was the defensive coordinator of the Carolina Panthers. So here's Football Outsiders. That first year in 2011, they were ranked 32nd on defense. The next year, 2012, 13th. 2013, they were 3rd. 2014, they were 15th. And then the Super Bowl season, 15-1 season, they were 3rd overall. And then the final year before he came to Buffalo, the defense was ranked 10th. So there's some variance in there, but you can see how he started to kind of incorporate what he wanted. And you also got to keep in mind, like, these are the years early on in his tenure, 2011, 2012, 2013 is when they acquired, Cam Newton, first of all, was his first year. I think it was 2011 was McDermott's first year. That was Cam Newton draft. That next year, 2012, was Luke Kuechly. The year after that was Star Lotulelei and Quan Short, 1-2, first and second round. And that's when that defense started to build up to who they are and kind of, shape McDermott's defense into what it is even today.
Yeah, and you also had some smatterings of injuries mixed in there. Kuechly went down for a bit in those runs. Charles Johnson got banged up a bit. Greg Hardy, who's a horrible person, but was a significant piece of their defensive line, got booted from the league out of nowhere, and so that affected their defensive line. But you saw Sean McDermott, from an identity perspective, build that team around what he had, similar to what he did with Buffalo. And then you had a lot of guys who went from being kind of nobodies like Josh Norman to all of a sudden becoming an all-pro type of corner. And you had this nasty, violent group on all 3 levels. Yes. And the type of style that they played really spoke to the identity that Sean McDermott wanted to build. And I think that's a very interesting piece. We had that comment that you pulled up saying that the sack numbers will go up with McDermott. I think you legitimately could see that. And I know you believe that as well. Like, Sean McDermott is, for as much as he has had his hands on this defense, and everybody, that conversation is still going. Like, was it McDermott's defense? Was it Frazier's? Yada, yada. Sean McDermott's defense, from what we saw in Carolina and knowing about his tutelage under Eagles defensive coordinator Jim Johnson, he's an aggressive dude. And from a front perspective, he loves to mug A-gaps and try and confuse quarterbacks. And he wants physicality. He wants violence. He wants attitude. And he wants to build around the players that he has. And I think you could make that case. And I don't think I'm not knocking Leslie Frazier. And I know that's kind of the popular thing to do. And I know there were large-scale failures under his tenure. But the Bills had very successful defenses under Leslie Frazier. But I do expect some sort of, not necessarily schematic change, but a play style or philosophical change on this defense under Sean McDermott, knowing what we saw from him in Carolina and then knowing, where he cut his teeth in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you kind of coined it in the way like in your face and violent, because that's what they were. And I think that's the contrast we're going to see. They were up in your face a lot more. They were up near the line of scrimmage a lot more. Whether that they stayed in that afterwards was kind of the mix. But listen to some of these stats that I got from PFF. So over the course of the last 2 seasons in Carolina with Sean McDermott as a defensive coordinator, so 2015 and 2016, their pressure percentage over those 2 years was 6.8%. That was 3rd overall. Very good. Their blitz percentage was top 10. It was ranked 10th at 25%. Over those 2 years, to John's point, 104 sacks. Over that 2-year span, that was ranked 2nd overall. 104 sacks. Yes, please give me 50 plus sacks a year. Their sack percentage, so it kind of gives you a little more efficiency, was 7%. That was tied for 2nd most. Their sacks, this is where it gets interesting. Sacks on 3rd down, right? Sacks on 3rd down over those 2 years, they had 46, which was 2nd overall. Sacks are blitzed on 3rd downs. And again, the money down. This is why I look at some of these stats, those big 3rd downs, which the Bills had issues sometimes, especially 3rd and longs this last year. So 3rd down blitz numbers. They had 17 sacks over those 2 years. That was 7th overall. So when they blitzed, they got 17 sacks over those 2 years. To put it in perspective, in 2022, when the Bills blitzed, they got 2 sacks on 3rd down. 2. That was ranked 31st.
I was going to say, not good.
Not good at all. Sack percentage on third down over those 2 years in Carolina, 15.7%, which was third overall. Perspective, for the Bills in 2022, their sack percentage was 5% on third down. Oof. That was ranked 31st. That's unacceptable. And I think that bend but don't break philosophy, how they tried pairing it with the aggressive offense of Josh Allen, for the most part, consistently, it was good. But I think they need a contrast. And I think Sean McDermott will bring that.
Yeah, I mentioned Jim Johnson a couple times. I know you and I have both spoken about him. One of the best defensive coordinators of all time, known for really taking that Eagles team and pairing with Andy Reid. And I did some research on him to tie it into McDermott. I also found out, fun fact, Andy Reid, when he took over as the head coach of the Eagles, he wanted Marvin Lewis to be his defensive coordinator, and Lewis accepted a job elsewhere. And so Andy Reid brought on Jim Johnson.
Where'd he go, to Baltimore?
Yes. And so Jim Johnson, again, very well respected as a defensive guru of sorts, famed for his creative zone blitzes, double A gap looks, and exotic game plans. I'm going to read some things pertaining to Jim Johnson and then some things to Sean McDermott, and there's just so much overlap. So again, Jim Johnson, creative zone blitzes, double A gap looks, exotic game plans. A hallmark of his scheme was pressure, fast, aggressive, physical, violent, and attitude. These are all quotes from Philadelphia newspapers and reporters and and guys breaking down film. Shout out to Fran Duffy, who does film breakdowns on the Eagles. He's where I got a lot of this stuff, which was awesome because, I don't have like 2003 Eagles game tape.
And he's very, very trustworthy as far as the eye and breaking down film.
Very tremendous. Another hallmark for Jim Johnson, changing the pre to post snap picture, causing havoc, creating confusion. Here's a great quote from Asante Samuel. One thing I got from being around Jim was his system was his system. He didn't change. So listen to this and tell me who it sounds like. One thing I got from being around Jim was his system was his system. He didn't change a whole lot from week to week, but it was all about finding out what the opponent's weak point was on offense. His dogs were his dogs, and he was going to cut them loose on you one way or another. Sounds very similar to articles breaking down Sean McDermott's Super Bowl appearing Carolina Panther defense, talking about how Sean McDermott's got the 4-3 system. He's taken on Jim Johnson's scheme that's involved sophisticated zone blitzes and put his own stamp on it. He calls himself a player-friendly defensive coordinator, building around the strengths of his players. And he says what's important is, rather than trying to tie up his players with intricate schemes and things, which we certainly can do, granted, it's like a game of chess, but at the same time, a player has to be able to execute and play fast and fundamentally sound. So we keep hearing these buzzwords of fundamentals and fast and physical and pressure and blitzes. And that Sean McDermott, Jim Johnson system is a 4-3 system based on pressuring the quarterback in the run and the pass. You do it with attitude. You do it with violence. You have your core ideology or philosophy, and then you turn dials left and right based on your opponent's weaknesses and trying to pinpoint those weaknesses and catering game plans. It sounds tremendously exciting, and there's proof in the pudding. And again, there's the legitimate track record to this, knowing what Sean McDermott did in Carolina.
Yeah, and to Tristan's question, he asked, you think McDermott might play a little more press man on the outside? Absolutely. I think that's going to be a thing. I think they're going to get in the face of guys. And again, sometimes they'll press and sometimes they'll bail into some of those zone blitzes. You're going to see some of them tonight. Coincidentally enough, we have some pressure plays from McDermott, and you can almost feel or sense the difference between what you're going to see on film from McDermott's defense than what you saw with Frazier. And I will say, I think part of Frazier's defense and bend but don't break philosophy is intertwined with analytics, because analytics do tell you to, hey, play those two high coverages, make them dink and dunk their way down the field, and have to do that consistently. So I'm not going to put it all on, hey, it's just a conservative coach in Leslie Frazier. No, I do think they were playing analytics, and a lot of what they were doing is ahead of some defenses. But again, I think when you're looking at the team as a whole, that whole philosophy, almost kind of building it like the Colts, where you get up 25, 30 points and then you unleash this pass rush, that complement didn't work well enough to get to the Super Bowl and to win a Super Bowl. So I think this is a change in the right direction. And, you know, I do like what he's going to bring, and we're going to get into some of that. So keep this in mind when we're looking at some of these, the film here in a second. Last season, pressure on third down from the Bills, from a defensive-minded head coach. They were ranked, they were 37% pressure on third down. That was ranked 27th. That's not good enough. And all the analytics tell you, yeah, the defense was good, especially in third downs. But you want to get pressure, and you want to affect the quarterback, much like we're going to see in this 2015, 2016 film. And the Bills, actually, it's surprising. This one surprised me the most, Anthony, this stat. Last season on third down, the Bills blitzed 34.9% of the time. Oof. That was ranked 6th. I did not know that. No. And again, maybe it had something to do with Von going down, but we talked about the interior defensive linemen and even some of the edge rushers and how overall they weren't getting enough pressure, and they definitely weren't finishing as much as we'd like. I think this stat of being ranked 6th in blitz percentage on third down, I didn't see that coming.
Here's one too as well, not just on third down, but so from a blitz percentage, weeks 1 through 11, again, when they had a healthy Von Miller, they had a 15% blitz rate, which was 28th overall. Again, weeks 12 through 18, when Von was down, that blitz rate went from 15% up to 24%, and they jumped from 28th to 14th. So not only were you seeing it on third down, but you were seeing it overall.
Oh, that checks out. That totally checks out, man. So let's get into some of the film. And so I have both angles, the all-22 and the end zone, but I'm going to kind of go quickly through the all-22 version just because the coverages aren't too different than what the Bills run now. But this is a Johnson staple right here. So you have Kuechly up near the line of scrimmage right here. So that means the center has to account for them, or the offensive line has to account for him. And then what they're going to do is they're going to send Thomas Davis, and they're going to send Trey Boston right here from depth. All right, from depth. The Eagles with Jim Johnson would run this Dawkins all the time.
Yeah, Dawkins and Quentin Michael blitzing from those
off the nickel and safety. Yep. So you see the sack there on Wilson there. So watch from the end zone angle and how they attack this protection. So on the snap, you're going to get the defensive tackle right here slanting across the face of the guard. They're going to bring Thomas Davis, but he occupies, and you see him attack this inside shoulder. He occupies Marshawn Lynch, which means here comes Trey Boston from depth, and he's able to bring down the quarterback. But it's important here. What's important to note is how the defensive end pops out, right? That fire zone blitz, he pops out, takes away that hot route or sight adjustment over the middle, forces the quarterback to hold it on just a little bit longer. The blitz gets home.
And this is a good way to, you know, we've talked about it so much with simulated pressures and creepers, the idea of dictating protection or confusing protection and making offenses waste blockers or players. There is 6 blockers kept in for the Seattle Seahawks here with the 5 offensive linemen plus Marshawn Lynch.
Yep.
There's only 5 rushers. Like, it's 6 versus 5, but the Panthers still created a free runner because of the pre-snap look and then the post-snap blitz. And that's something that, again, Jim Johnson believed in. His whole idea was you don't let offenses dictate to you. You have to put more pressure on the quarterback, and every game trying to figure out how to put that pressure on the quarterback. And that's something that McDermott took as well. Like, I literally watched Fran Duffy break down similar clips like this in preparation for this episode. It's almost the identical type of blitz structure and concept from the Panthers here. And this is a McDermott staple. You're trying to change the pre to post snap picture on the quarterback. You're trying to dictate to the offense and force their hand. And again, even if it doesn't work, what is it? It's physical, it's violent, it's you kind of forcing the offense's hand one way or another by bringing these types of looks and changing things on the QB.
Yeah, and keep in mind, guys, I didn't preface it, but most of these clips, these are third downs. So they're bringing 5- and 6-man pressures on third downs. So here's another one, this one against the Seahawks as well. Again, guys up near line of scrimmage, right? In your face down here. And they're going to send the linebacker again, and then they're sending this defender off the edge. And watch him, again, third down, running back occupies one, and that's Freddie Jackson picking up that pressure from number 31. You see Thomas Davis get home from this angle. So here it is right here. So here comes Freddie Jackson. He's going to pick up and choose 31. Well, that leaves that free runner right here to Russ Wilson again. It's good stuff because you see this edge defender pop out and carry this guy up the seam. Like, this is some fun stuff. And again, aggressive. This is in the red zone. Aggressive, in your face. And they have the Bills have linebackers like Milano that can get home, just like Thomas Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Evan Bernard, that's one of the things he did so well at Baylor,
Yes.
is rushing and coming at the quarterback and adding on in some of those rushers from Dave Aranda's defense. So I just love the numbers game here. I love the aggression and getting those free runners for your talented linebackers.
And that's an interesting point with how much we've talked about who fills the shoes of Tremaine Edmunds. You mentioned it with Bernard now. That was my favorite quality of his when you watch the tape at Baylor. His blitzing ability, he comes forward like a heat-seeking missile, and he's either getting to the quarterback or he's running through somebody or detonating on somebody, whether it's an offensive lineman, running back, tight end, whoever. This type of scheme from Sean McDermott suits his play style and Matt Milano's as well. You have aggressive gap shooting style linebackers who play off of instinct and quickness and fast twitch, quick trigger ability. That type of scheme works. And then you also have some athleticism in the rest of your defense to be able to play further games and drop an edge or drop somebody on the interior of the defensive line and get really creative with your looks.
Right. And so this is the coverage on the back end is 3/2. It's basically like their palms coverage with the 2x2 set on this play. But I want to show you the end zone angle because you're going to have from this angle, you're going to see Mario Addison, a defensive end, pop out right here. And again, the Panthers get that free runner and the quarterback's flushed and he's not able to complete the pass. Again, 3rd and long, as you can see. But look at the end zone angle, this odd man front. This is a defensive end. This is another defensive end. You got a nose tackle. And this is a D tackle. I think that's Kawan Short over here off the right side. Mm-hmm. So then you have Kuechly and Davis as well. So this is a traditional, nickel type look, but they just changed the front and structure to confuse the offensive line. And so watch what happens post snap. I got it drawn up. So you're going to get 2 guys off the edges and then just 1 up the middle. And watch how they get that free runner. This guy pinches inside and you get the free runner right here, but he also gets some wide pressure right here from Thomas Davis versus the running back. Chaos. He's trying to get out the back of the pocket there and complete it. And even if he does complete it, he's not going to get the first down. It's chaos. It's creative. It's different. There's very defensive structures. That's what the Bills need. They don't have to get crazy. They don't have to get crazy like a lot of people are expecting them to. They have to just present different things, different structures, alignments, and tendencies overall on film.
This is something we talked about earlier in the offseason when breaking down the, kind of the status of what the Bills finished the season as and who they needed to be going forward. You almost have kind of like a bare front look on the interior here with the center and both guards covered. Exactly. But look at the alignment. Like one guard is covered by a defensive end in Mario Addison. Like you said, the other one is covered by Luke Kuechly. And then guess what? They're both dropping. And then you're getting a blitz from the slot corner to the right in number 26, who wasn't even on our screen to begin with. And then you're getting a blitz from the other side on Thomas Davis. These are the types of, exactly like you said, this is what we were clamoring for. And it's not just because it's what we personally want. This is what the Bills needed more of. Even though this Bills defense was on the whole largely successful, there was too much predictability at the end of the day, especially in high leverage situations where it was like, okay, guess what? Here comes like a 4-3 over front. Okay, here it is. 4 rushers. Here you go. Rinse and repeat. And we saw that a lot from this defense. Sean McDermott, he likes to pull different levers. He likes to play games like this. And what's also cool about this front, this is confusing and getting to, at this point in his career, a very veteran Carson Palmer at quarterback, a guy who is very experienced seeing different kinds of blitzes, recognizing games, knowing who his hot routes are and what adjustments he needs to make. So being able to fool a legitimate veteran QB at this point, and this is when the Cardinals were actually a really good squad in the NFC, being able to confuse a veteran quarterback like that with this front and having this type of impact with a switch up and that aggressiveness, it's extremely enticing for what this Bills defense could be, especially going into a year paired with a high-functioning, high-firepower offense like Josh Allen.
Yeah, and this is what happens. This is one-on-one here. And so these guys are thinking, hey, these are the immediate threats. They got to cover them up. Well, obviously, Kuechly pops out. Well, now he's going to have to pick him up. And this guy, the left tackle, has to somehow get out there. It's damn near impossible. And again, that's what creates the pressure on Palmer and again, gets the defense off the field.
And the timing of it was great too. Right when Kuechly popped out and right when 26 came, it was almost like right when the Cardinals were like, oh, cool, we're set with our protection. And then it's like, crap, they're not doing what we thought they did. And again, that's not by accident. That's by design. You saw it in Philly. You saw it with Carolina. That's a Sean McDermott thing.
Yeah, attacking protections. We always talk about it. So here's, again, that in-your-face mentality. 3rd down, Super Bowl. Press man coverage on the back end. So watch the coverage as it unfolds. Just press man and pressure up the middle against Peyton Manning. So let's look at it from the end zone angle. Again, odd front. Center's covered up, right? You have Thomas Davis as an on-the-ball linebacker on the line of scrimmage to the running back side. And the offensive line is once again kind of running like a 5-0 protection where it's man on man. So what the defensive line does is they kind of pinch and then they widen post snap. And as they widen, you see they're all covered up. So you got 2 for 1 here, and then everyone else is 1-on-1. Well, no one's got Kuechly right up the middle, and that's an easy sack for Kuechly on that play. So attacking protections, letting your dogs run free, right? Sending them at the quarterback, being aggressive. And, you know, Davis is to the running back side. This is probably the hot too. He's covered up. He can't get rid of it to the running back. Everyone else is, you know, covering down, and just Kuechly's in his face, and Manning's, he's forced to eat it there.
It's such a good design from the pre-snap alignment on the interior, then combined with what they do post-snap, like you highlighted, because with how Denver IDs this and assigns their protection, the Panthers, this isn't by accident. They open up that A gap for Luke Kuechly, and it's because of their pre-snap alignment and who Denver IDs. Everybody's got a man, but guess what? Like you said, Thomas Davis drops out off the left. So now that right tackle was thinking he had to pick up Thomas Davis. He's been wasted. Thomas Davis picks up the hot. You got a double team on Charles Johnson there, number 95. And then you've got one-on-ones everywhere else. But because you confuse the protection, and also I would highly imagine, and I think you would agree, again, I don't want to speak for you, this is probably Carolina and Sean McDermott knowing, okay, this is what Denver likes to do. We've scouted them. These are what their protection rules are. Let's attack those rules with this pre-snap alignment and create a free runner. This is by design, and it's with a really good design in a high leverage situation. And you could tell they took what Denver does and used it against them and dictated to them, which is a philosophical idea under Sean McDermott.
Yeah, and I think we're going to say it multiple times in this breakdown, dictating. Not bend but don't break, not react to what the offense is dictating, and react to what they're doing. You're dictating now, and this is what the Panthers did a lot of in 2015 and 2016. Another odd man front here, and again, guys in different positions. This is a defensive end. I think this is Mario Edison right there. Thomas Davis is over here on the line of scrimmage off the edge. The Panthers are running a little twist inside, so you're going to have Kuechly and the nose tackle slanting one way, and you're looping Addison inside against his protection. And Kuechly obviously just is a stud. He's able to beat the offensive lineman and the running back there. But again,
it's ridiculous,
dictating and affecting the quarterback. And there's so much chaos and hunting going on that the quarterback could barely even look downfield. And especially in these third and long situations, there's no way for him to set up when you have these type of dogs hunting.
I think this is what's also exciting for a defensive grouping that across the whole, like what we've talked about with the interior defensive line and on the edge without Von Miller, you know, Groot is kind of getting up there, but the Bills don't really have a ton of straight guys who can get you buckets up on the defensive line, guys who are just like, you know what, cool, just let them rush. They can win one-on-one. It is what it is. So sometimes you have to get creative. And I think this was lacking. You know, you and I have talked about it. These types of games and stunts weren't utilized enough for the Bills, whether in pass rush or run stunts and, you know, trying to change gaps and trying to confuse and penetrate. We saw a lot of just straightforward attacking. This is a nice, aggressive type of style that, again, use that buzzword. This is the type of like dictating a defense can do. You are forcing the hand of an offense. You are forcing them to properly ID who's rushing and from where. You are testing their pass protection rules. You are testing their pre-snap identification and their post-snap execution. And that's hard. Like on the opposite side, what Leslie Frazier was like, no, we're going to make you dink and dunk for 15 plays to score. McDermott's a bit on the opposite end. Like, we're going to force you to diagnose all this havoc and chaos and make you read it out and beat us with it.
Yeah, here's a six-man pressure from a double A mug look, right? So, but it's not linebackers in the A gaps. Again, it's defensive ends. Your linebacker is right here, Thomas Davis. This is Shaq Thompson. And then I think this is AJ Klein right here off the other edge. So they're in a 4-3 look, but they have everyone reversed. So that forces the offensive line to communicate and change where they're setting the protection to. And they're just not messing around on this play. Panthers are playing press man coverage. They're sending 6 guys, and you get the matchup that wins. You get a linebacker on a running back. He's able to throw him off to the side and make a play on the ball and Phillip Rivers right at the line of scrimmage. Just, again, attack-oriented. Win your matchups. Let the dogs run free and let them hunt. And man, McDermott did it a bunch from so many different looks in 2015 and 2016.
Yeah, this is a beautiful one. Like knowing, okay, this is a running back who pass protection isn't his strong suit. Let's set him up against a physical linebacker and AJ Klein, who's a good blitzer, who was good in his time in Buffalo as a blitzer, let alone when he was closer to his prime in Carolina. And you just see the easy mismatch. The Chargers slide that protection from the left tackle all the way over. Like this is by design. This is them playing their protection rules. This is Carolina using their rules against them. Bingo. This is a really beautiful thing. This is you taking what, and I want to keep driving that home because I feel like it's so important and people don't think about that enough. Like to be able to scout a team and know, okay, in this situation, they do this, in that situation, they do that. That's not what wins you games. It's being able to take that and use that against them. When you can use what a team does against them and make them vulnerable with it, that's how you win championships. That's how you get to Super Bowls. That's what Carolina did. Like this is a tried and true recipe that Sean McDermott learned and then wielded. And
the thing that I'm most excited about is, there's a lot of rumblings about, hey, how did Eric Washington, get by and not get fired, or he's not developing guys and all that talk. Well, now with McDermott in every single defensive meeting,
good point.
And with his thumb on everything, they're not going to get away with some lazy game plans and stunts and games. No, he's going to have a hand in every single thing that goes on in this game plan and strategy, more so than when Frazier was running things. I feel that, and we're going to see a lot more, again, aggressiveness and dictating by the Bills defense, and especially the defensive line and front seven when it comes to creating pressures, because that's what McDermott wants to do. He wants to be aggressive. He wants to be violent. Here's another one, man across the board, crazy exotic look up the middle.
Yep.
Again, another third down. That's the all 22, the last one. We'll just skip that one then. I'm sorry. Here's another one. Now you got Kuechly head up over that nose tackle, over the center. You have Thomas Davis coming up into that A gap. Watch him unleash again. One-on-one. Rodgers tries extending the play. Kuechly's there again, and then I think it's Starr that finishes. I mean, just waves.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Waves. Whether they're all up at the line of scrimmage and they're all coming, or again, they have 4 at the line of scrimmage or 5, and then they have one pop out and they bring a linebacker and safety from the second and third level. Either way, they come in waves, and that's the type of suffocating that we wanted to see last year, especially in some of those games against those, upper tier quarterbacks where we're just sitting back as a defense and letting them pick apart the defense.
Suffocating is a great word. The one I was going to use for this one was smothering. And that's what you're doing to Aaron Rodgers here in the pocket. Like, look at Rodgers trying to navigate, and everywhere he steps and everywhere he looks, like it's literally just like wave after wave. Like he's like, I can go over. Oh no, I can't. Okay, let me go. Like, well, like everywhere he goes, there's nowhere to go. He thinks a door is open. Every doorknob that he tries to turn is locked. And this is that.
Crazy.
Nice.
Where are you going? Nowhere.
Exactly, nowhere. Oh, nice tie-in. He's completely hemmed in. Like the pocket is compressed. It's broken. The depth and the width are all compromised. There is nowhere to go. And that type of front is paired with the physicality from a coverage standpoint. That's you challenging the offense.